Well, look, I mean, I expressed these misgivings to the Chief Minister when he showed me the new version of the draft Concordat a few days before it was made public and before it was finalized. And clearly, there are two defects to it, I think. First of all, that it doesn't include Gibraltar in all the discussions, all the decision making. And secondly, that it creates this category of exceptional decisions, exceptional circumstances, where the UK could depart from the view of the Gibraltar government. I believe that any decision under the treaty should carry the consent of the government of the people of Gibraltar, and that the government should be involved in every single decision-making process under the treaty. This is something that we've said publicly. We think it falls short of the obligation and indeed the request that we made. So we think that in government we will approach the UK so that we can table discussions, and the Minister Doughty letter already says that he is willing to have further discussions on a broad range of issues. So we will ask the UK to have discussions to improve the terms of the Concordat.
Now, the treaty itself has divided opinions, but few would dispute that the lifting of frontier restrictions at midnight the other night was possibly one of the most significant moments in Gibraltar's modern history. Thousands of people gathered at the frontier to witness it. As leader of the opposition, you weren't there, and people are talking about this.
Well, look, I mean, we've said that this is not a perfect treaty. This is not a wonderful deal that has been negotiated and brought back to Gibraltar. We compared this deal with no deal. And side by side with no deal, despite the misgivings on security, on economic controls, on boots on the ground, because the government made U-turns on boots on the ground that they still haven't properly explained. Despite all that, we voted in favour, because compared with no deal and the cataclysm that no deal could have been represented, we agreed to support it and to make it work. So I temper the elation and the understanding and the realization of the historic moment with the understandable misgivings that a lot of people in this community have, and the fact that I accept that, of course, it is a historic moment to see the frontier checks come down. Does not mean that those misgivings have gone away.
Now, admittedly, leadership is often is as much about symbolism as it is about substance. Do you accept that some people may have interpreted your absence as sending the wrong message, or even shaped how they view your leadership at such a pivotal moment in Gibraltar's history?
No, I don't, because I think it was a moment to temper the elation with the understanding that there are misgivings, things that we may not like, and that this is not the new relationship. As I have said very clearly, this is an opportunity for a new relationship. And in an opportunity for a new relationship, a lot more work needs to be done in building trust and confidence, not least by Spain stopping blowing hot and cold over Gibraltar.
Now, you talk about the hard work starts now, the start of a new relationship, not yet a new relationship. You've also raised concerns about security, giving businesses certainty as well.
I think, look, the reality is this changes the economic model for for the importation of goods and for a lot of businesses that are now exposed to a degree of competition that they may not be able to survive in. The government needs to be very alive to that. It means investing in the product, the tourist product, the city centre product, but it also means having targeted financial assistance to a number of businesses that may not survive. It is not in the interest of Gibraltar to allow businesses to collapse, and therefore the government that has the statistical analysis, that has the economic studies behind the scenes, they need to ensure that certain sectors of our economy are supported during the transition, and so that they are able to reposition themselves to be able to compete better with the new economic model.
You also talk about trust and confidence. Now, we also know that many Gibraltarians are holding back, not trusting the Spanish government.
The jury is out on a lot of those issues because, for example, we don't know what will happen if there's a change of government in Spain. We hope that it does not affect this treaty. But, you know, one of the things that we've spoken about before is the lack of certainty, because the termination clauses of this treaty allows short-term no-fault termination. I think the only things that we can do is to control what we can control, which is to put in the hard work, adhere to our obligations, make sure that we are honest with the people of Gibraltar about what this treaty does and what it doesn't do, and put in the hard work over the years to come to make sure that this treaty works for Gibraltar.
And talking about the treaty working, you said the real test of this agreement will be its implementation. So when we look back in a year's time, what will convince you that this treaty has been a success for Gibraltar? And what would tell you is falling short of what was promised?
Well, I think, look, the reality on implementation is that it can't be judged on a week, a month, or a year, because there are different aspects to the implementation. There's the implementation of the treaty as it stands today. Then there will be implementation of decisions that are going to be taken by the specialized committees going forward. Those things haven't been done yet. And this is why I say the Concordat is so important, because the participation in these bodies is key. And the participation and decisions by the Gibraltar government in these bodies is key, because there will be things to come that haven't been decided yet under this framework that still needs to be implemented. So implementation is almost a lifelong experience as long as this treaty stays in place. So we need to put in a lot of work, and that means reflecting as well on the resources that the government dedicate, financial, human, technical expertise, on a number of areas to make sure that everything is done to keep the treaty in place and for it to work for the government and for the people of Gibraltar.
Now, you also say there needs to be honesty in politics in relation to the treaty debate.
Yes, because we've said from day one, when we had the treaty motion debate in Parliament, I said it's important to be realistic and honest with the people of Gibraltar about what the treaty does and it doesn't do. And that means warts and all. Tell people what it does and doesn't do, both in terms of the economic intrusive controls on boots on the ground and on other aspects. So I think that it's important, or indeed the border control regulations that the government itself published on the 9th of July, where they have criminalized the fact that if you fail to comply with a Schengen check, it becomes an offense. Now, these things can only be an offense because the Schengen immigration checks are being done in Gibraltar, because otherwise it would be to criminalize something that is happening in Spain. So clearly it is important in the context of the debate that we're all having to be honest and clear with the people of Gibraltar about what it does and it doesn't do.